a good Tuesday afternoon to you. Welcome on into lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. Powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne and Claibs. A lot of sports stuff to get to today, but first here locally, the broadcasting world here in St. Louis lost a longtime voice yesterday in the passing of Jeff Burton.
Yeah, Jeff has been around this market for a long, long time, and got to know him over the years. Always a good guy from my experiences with him. I know there are a lot of people who knew him better than me, but I always respected him. He was a funny guy, but he also had another side to him where, he was compassionate. He had great interest in about a lot of different things. And being a father, I know that that's going to be tough on his kids to lose a good father as well. So we certainly pass on our thoughts and prayers to his family and all the other people who knew him better and as well, and who are around him a lot more. When you lose a person in this business, it's tough because, we know them, and you work next to a person on a regular basis, or you've been able to work around them. That's tough, man. And we don't see it happen in our business a lot, but when it does, and to a person like Jeff and what he meant to so many people, this one stings. And hopefully we'll all come together and help each other get through it.
Absolutely, very well said. The Cardinals were off yesterday. You and many members of the Cardinals and the St. Louis Cardinal organization had a busy last 2 days, kind of back to back. Paul Goldschmidt had his event on Sunday. Yachty had his thing on Monday.
Jason Mott had an event yesterday as well. Adam Wainwright had another event yesterday. A lot of things. But you know what, Joe? It's because the schedule, we didn't have many off days where we were at home the next day, and we didn't have to travel. And I think it was one of the few days on the schedule where we didn't have to travel and had an off day. And this is when you have to try and bring these events together. And, I was able to go to a couple of them and, well attended. A lot of players there, and they were very gracious with their time. And, in the earlier eras, I'm trying to think when Tony got here, we started to see more activities of this nature, because when Whitey was here, this didn't happen. No, you're not doing anything. He discouraged a lot of that sort of stuff. And then when Tony got here, it was open a little bit more. And now, because of social media and everybody having various causes that they want to support, there just really aren't enough days on the calendar to support it. So you try and get out, when you're invited, and try and do it. And, it's a good night. You don't make it a long night. You make an appearance and support it, and you go home and get some rest, man. That's why it's an off day.
We'll get to that. You mentioned the calendar. We'll get to baseball's calendar here in just a bit. But you mentioned Whitey. He was his 1982 team was celebrated this past weekend with the Brewers in town. 40 years from that 1982 World Series, and so many guys came back. And I know you guys had a few of the guys in the booth on Friday and on Saturday. What were some highlights of the 1982 guys sitting in with you on the KMOX broadcast?
Well, and it all came back to Whitey. I mean, these guys attribute everything that they've achieved with respect to that team to how Whitey brought everybody together. Think about, I believe he had 5, maybe 6 rookies on that team. You had some guys like Jim Cotter that come over from another organization near the end of his career. You had some other guys who just kind of found a way to be part of this, who'd been in another organization. And I always think about the fact this was Ozzy's first year with the Cardinals. So you had a lot of different moving parts, but Whitey Herzog was the guy who brought everybody together for this one run, because, they got cheated in 81. They had the best record in baseball or in the National League, but they didn't win the second half of the season, hence the reason they didn't make the playoffs. So there was a little angst about how things were going to unfold for the 82 season. And you had the emergence of guys who you didn't know anything about, like Willie McGee. David Green pulls a hamstring, and all of a sudden Willie McGee's in the lineup, and the next thing you know, he's one of the greatest Cardinals to ever play here. So you had John Stupper, who was up 3 different times in a rain delay game 6 and gave you everything he had. There was so many different moments, but I always go back to when this thing was really on the line. Cardinals in Philadelphia, bases loaded, 1 out, and Mike Schmidt comes to the plate. And this is Mike Schmidt when he's in his heyday. All right, Bruce Sutter comes in, throws him that split finger fastball, a 1-2-3 double play. And that was it. From that point on, you knew the Cardinals were in pretty good shape to win it. They clinched it in Montreal late in the season. You go into postseason, you play the Atlanta Braves, and they had Phil Niekro, who had a knuckleball that gave some people some problems. There was a rain out. He was up to pitch, and he was pitching, and we were having a problem. They eventually rained that game out, so that means they lose Niekro in the postseason rotation, and the Cardinals go on to beat Atlanta. Then they move on to deal with the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Brewers came in here in Game 1 and wore the Cardinals out. I think it was like 13-0. It was not good in St. Louis. The Cardinals come back and win Game 2. They win Game 3. Game 4 in Milwaukee, Dave LaPointe bobbles a simple routine play on the infield, and you didn't have Bruce Sutter. I'll never forget that look. Sutter, they'd use him every day. They couldn't use him again, and he had this look of helplessness sitting in the bullpen, watching things unfold. I remember Ozzie scoring on a fly ball from second base. Think about that. He scored from second base on a fly ball. Gorman Thomas caught it, slipped, and Ozzie took off and didn't stop running. Games 5 and 6 were back and forth, and here we are in Game 7. Milwaukee was up. Cardinals come back, take the lead, then get a couple of more hits. And then Bruce Sutter, Gorman Thomas was looking for a split finger. He threw him a four-seamer, and he swung through it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, the interviews that kept coming through. Keith Hernandez made it his way back into town. Didn't realize he almost stole 20 bases that year. He talked about it with Danny Mack on their broad during his inning in the booth there about how he was so close, and then he came up short, started getting thrown out, lost a step, and had to cut it short. But that was his goal that year, was to steal 20 bases. So he just had to go rely on playing defense and hitting, and had to take the speed element out of his game.
Yeah, he was a good athlete. He was a pitcher in high school. And he and high school coach didn't get along, so he didn't play. That's the reason why he got drafted so late, because he didn't play his senior year. But yeah, he was a good player. And I remember him really having a dreadful slump in the World Series. And then all of a sudden he found it late in the series, and he contributed. Steve Braun with a great pinch hit at bat. And I'll never forget George Hendrick dropping I'm trying to think of who threw him a slider. I think it might have been, they had a guy named Bob Gibson, and they threw him a slider. He just dropped ahead and went the other way, and George ended up with a double or a triple, and it drove in a couple of runs. Yeah, it was a fun series. Milwaukee was a good team. Milwaukee was one of those teams that they would call Harvey's wall bangers because they could hit. I mean, they had a bunch of guys up and down their order. They could flat out hit. Charlie Moore, Larry Heisel, Ted Simmons was in that lineup. Gorman Thomas, Robin Yount. They had 2 Hall of Famers in that lineup. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they were a pretty good team. But, Cardinals were just a little better in that series. But Milwaukee was as good of a team as you run across in 1982.
By the way, I know you guys had a lot of the 1982 guys coming through the booth, but I think people that listen to the radio also would have heard the inning that Jim Edmonds spent with you guys in the booth on Friday nights. I don't know. Have you talked to him since then? Because he was recapping.
I got nothing to say about it.
He was recapping his visit with you guys on the TV side, talking about just how different it was from TV to radio, and he was kind of I think a little shocked at how different the two mediums are.
Yeah, I think the word shock is a good word to use, considering he wasn't the only one that particular night. And I'll let it go at that.
Let's talk.
It was a different weekend. Let's just put it that way.
Let's talk about the play on the field. Cardinals very easily could have taken all 3 of the games against Milwaukee. The thing I will take away from the weekend is Albert is still just hitting at an incredible pace. And it really seems like the Cardinals have a solid 4 starters right now that you trust each one of them to take the ball out there on any given night.
Yeah, I would agree with you. A solid four. I'm going to go back to Albert for a second. Um, Frank Cusimano and I were sitting in the media lounge when Albert came up in the eighth inning. And when I saw the matchup, I said, Albert will get this guy. And so Frank said, what do you mean? He made Albert look bad last night, struck him out. I said, well, I don't know if he looked bad. He got him out. I said, but I don't think there's a left-handed pitcher alive right now to get Albert out 2 days in a row. And he just kind of looked at me, and the next pitch, because remember, he hit the first pitch. He threw him the same pitch he threw the night before that got him out, which was a bad idea. One of the things I've learned about Albert, and you've seen it yourself, and I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners have, you can throw Albert a pitch, and he'll kind of, whoa, where did that come from? And now you say to yourself, I showed him something there. And then you come back with that same pitch 2 pitches later because you're a little greedy. And the next thing you know, you're using a new baseball because he makes you pay. And as soon as it came out of his hand, did you see the expression Victor Caratini? Have you seen that video of Victor Caratini just dropping his head? Because, he owns that too, because he called for that pitch. So you can't fool. The reason Albert is still around is because he's got an incredible mind about how this game works. And he and I were talking about it Sunday night about, what guys are trying to do to him. And he's locked in. So he said, I'm seeing it really well. And he said, some guys will get me. There's no doubt some guys will have his number. He said, but they won't have it twice. And I think what we're going to see, if he can get this thing under 9 going into September, the 700 thing will be as fascinating as McGuire in his home run trot. And you don't think those games against Pittsburgh are going to mean something?
That's what I tweeted out. I said that you look at that 6 games against Pittsburgh to end the season. I mean, if he's within 5 by then,
I think he'll be within 5 well before then.
Then it's done. Then, 6 games against Pittsburgh to end the season.
Yeah, and the games in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Those, that might be a reason I actually want to go to Pittsburgh. Nobody else will be there. They'll all be watching the Steelers, except Cardinal fans.
It'll be a lot of red
and people in baseball. Yeah. That'll be a very intriguing series. And now I think what you have to do is start looking at every team the Cardinals face, and do they have a left-hander?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have a left-handed starter? Do they have anybody left-handed in the bullpen? Because that's going to be the matchup you're looking for. I mean, with the exception of a couple of guys like Goldschmidt and Arenado, everybody else might get pinch hit for if Albert gets a crack at somebody.
You mentioned the way that he reacted to the at bat on Saturday against Taylor Rogers, and then what he did on Sunday against him. And you see this a lot with really good hitters, like notably historically good hitters, that every now and then they'll trick a pitcher into throwing the same pitch. That they'll be a pitch and they'll react in a certain way where that pitcher comes and the catcher goes, oh, we got him on that. But in the hitter's mind, you know what? It was just a good pitch he saw. And he knows if he reacts a certain way, he'll get you to throw that one more time. And Albert's done that, for 22 years now. He's done that, and people still fall for it. And it's just it's amazing that it happens.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess on the other side of that coin, I'm amazed that in the opportunities Albert's had this year, he's gotten himself out with more slop, change-ups, sliders, compared to, I would think, I'd be rearing back, throwing him fastballs high and tight and see if he'd go for it. I'd throw him 4-seamers and see what he's got. But they haven't done that. And you'll see him pop a ball up. He'll be out on his front foot. Maybe it's a slider, like I said, slider or a change-up or something maybe he didn't anticipate. And it's hard for him not to anticipate because the work he puts in to look at pitchers before games is in that same category with Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know if there's 2 guys who study people more in the film room than those 2 guys. So it's not like Albert's going to get tricked a lot. All right. It's just maybe he might be a little anxious. And you know what? Here's the other thing. They pay that other guy a lot of money to throw good pitches also. So he's going to win sometimes. And I think we have to take that into account. As great as Albert is, the percentages are that he's going to fail more than succeed. So the other pitcher has to do a perfect job of getting him out, because if he misses, it's a wrap, man.
Last thing on Albert before we take a break here, the emotion he showed on that home run that he hit. When's the last time you saw that out of him?
I asked him that on the field Sunday because we just don't see it. He doesn't like showing up people, and I don't think he was showing up their pitcher. But you can tell how he's trying to truly embrace this. And I was talking to Paul Goldschmidt about this the other night, and he made the point. He said, I'm really having fun watching him have fun right now. And I remember talking to Randy, left-hander, big left-hander,
Johnson?
Randy Johnson, who was a guy who really didn't enjoy the game as much until near the end. And I remember him coming to St. Louis and him having a conversation with Mike Shannon about it. And I even talked to Mike Schmidt about it the last time we were in Philadelphia. And he remembered saying, man, I don't know if anybody had more fun playing the game than Mike Shannon. He said, I wish I would have been able to have that much fun. And until I talked to Mike, I really didn't realize how much you appreciate having fun when you're in that situation. And I was telling Goldie the story, and he was like, yeah, he said, I remember Randy wasn't having a lot of fun playing until the end. And I think Albert probably has seen enough guys who didn't have it. And now that he's at peace and knowing that this is his last season, there's nothing to play for to have a facade about yourself that's going to make you seem like you're not approachable or you're not having fun. This guy's having as much fun with the game as I've ever seen, and I couldn't be happier for him.
The Cardinals start a series against the Rockies this evening, and we will talk more about that and the pitching matchups when we come back right after this. It's Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and also sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com.
My name is Jeremy Seabury. I am one of the owners of Paw K9.
Marcus Galmore, co-owner of Paw K9.
What makes us different from other dog companies is there is no breed left behind. We stand by that 120%. We specialize in aggressive behavior modification. We don't turn away. We bring them in for a free evaluation to see if we can help the dog.
Here at Paw K9, we focus on the owners, educating the owners.
How do I get this dog to give me the behaviors that I'm asking for without the treats? So that's when me and Marcus come in. We train the dog, so when you take the dog home, you don't need the treats. The dog is doing it because you're asking it to.
After each training package, we go through a series of lessons. We keep going until the owner gets it.
We make sure that they go over the beatings with their dog, and that dog is listening before they leave here, but also we follow up when they get home. Is your pup listening to you here? If it's not, we one phone call away, we'll make a trip. We got the Paw Mobile, where we go out to their homes and make sure their dog is okay.
Hey, on Sunday, August 28th, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a mystery Hall of Fame car parade bobblehead thanks to Ford. Which one will you get? Willie McGee or Jim Edmonds? Find out on Sunday, August 28th. Get your tickets at cardinals.com/promotions. Again, that's cardinal.com/promotions. Back in 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Mike Claiborne, and I'm with the Gillespies, and I have to ask you a question. Is it true that you need a big down payment to buy a house these days?
No, Mike, that is not true. I've closed several clients with zero money down.
Seriously, $0 down. And as a bonus, we'll give you a $500 gift card when you mention Mike Claiborne. Only at jnjloans.com.
Little more baseball talk here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe at Ameren, Illinois, Munganess St. Louis Acura, and the HomeLoanExpert.com, our great sponsors here on the show. We mentioned the pitching. The Cardinals announced over the weekend that they're going to skip Dakota Hudson's start during this series with Colorado. Not sure when we are going to see him get a start again, but with the additions of Quintana and Jordan Montgomery, I mean, I don't know what more you could ask out of either one of those guys than what you've gotten so far in their first starts.
They've been just what you would hope for. They give you innings. They obviously haven't given up any runs. And you know what? I like they're both strike throwers. I mean, one of the problems with Dakota Hudson is his inconsistency, and the word walk is a 4-letter word to the manager. Okay. There's a lot of things that are going in the wrong direction for Dakota Hudson right now. But when you see what these other two guys have been able to do early, and I love the way Montgomery pounds the strike zone on these right-handed hitters. I mean, he busted in on them. You know, he's middle in and he stays middle in. He doesn't leave it out on the middle of the plate. And that's something that I think has been effective for him. He's a strike thrower, a ground ball pitcher. Same thing with Quintana, who knows how to pitch. So with what they've been able to provide, they give you more length as far as the starts are concerned. And you see what Michaelis and Waino did over the weekend. I mean, what, they have 17 innings pitched combined? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty good. So when you look at that and what they're able to do, it really gives you more weapons for your bullpen. Now, I think the challenge the Cardinals are going to have here is availability. Okay, this all hinges around what you're going to get out of Gallegos, plain and simple. Because when you have Helsley, he's going to give you that one night. Then you like to come back another night with Gallegos. You've got to get something out of him. I mean, and granted, he gave it up the other night. But still in all, you basically have like two different combinations of guys you can use. And I think the other guy that's going to be a key factor here will be Cabrera and what he's going to be able to get done. And maybe he's that guy on the back end, the night you don't pitch Helsley. Maybe he's a guy who closes it for you. But you've got to have some issues, some items, and having a little bit more balance in your bullpen when Helsley is not available. And Helsley is not a back-to-back guy. He's shown that that's something that he doesn't particularly care for and isn't very effective at. You know, so you got to think about that also. And the innings on his arm at this stage of the season. You know, we're about to get into a very interesting element of the year where there's some pitchers who are kind of going on beyond what they've been accustomed to. Palante's in that category also. So you have to be very careful and make sure you don't overuse guys. This is where you have guys like Quintana and Montgomery. They've been so effective in not having to go to the bullpen so early.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching them. You know, with Miles Michaelis, if we just take out what he did in Colorado, if we just take that out of the equation and just forget that start ever happened, and you look at everything else, the entire resume that he's built so far this year, the thing that jumps out at me is that, again, this is all outside of the Denver game. It seems like the only runs he's giving up are on home runs. Teams are not going through innings, putting multiple runners on base, scoring runs, and manufacturing runs. Every time he's out there, he gives up 1-2 runs, and it's always coming off a long ball.
Yeah, and you know what? It's always a home run when nobody's on base because they don't walk a lot of guys. So that guy doesn't get on base with a free pass, and then the guy behind him comes up to hit a home run. You just don't see it. He is a strike thrower, and I think the good teams recognize that he's not going to be out of the zone very much, and he'll break a bat. You don't really get a chance to square him up, but he's throwing strikes, and he'll get a lot of punch outs also in that same manner. But I think the key for him is not walks, but the solo home runs is what you'll see, and you'll see him early. You don't see him very often late in the game. Yeah. So he's been fun to watch.
We got Quintana tonight, Montgomery tomorrow. So if you're wanting to get out there and see the two new lefties, I'm going to guess there's a lot of tickets available.
Freeland's pitching tonight. He's a left-hander. So you'll see Albert in the lineup. So again, baseball fans, go through these rosters. Look at what teams have lefties. Look at what teams have lefty starters. Those are the ones you want to definitely circle because that means Albert is definitely going to play. And, you know, at this stage with 11 to go to try and get to 700, I think it's must-watch baseball right now and certainly much to listen to. And let me tip my cap to all three of our lead announcers in Polo Asensio, his call on Sunday. Danny Mack is having an incredible year. And John Rooney and Ricky Horton, two guys I work with on a daily basis. I don't know if you didn't have goosebumps going through your body listening to John Rooney's calls on all of the home runs, but certainly that last one from Albert, you in the wrong sport You should find something else to do because I don't know if it's going to ever get better.
I can tell you so when Albert was here, when he was going through the first, his first stage of his career 20 years ago, I'm in high school, I'm in college, and watching that and realizing you were watching something special. Now, as a dad to a 9-year-old who's really getting into baseball and getting to watch this at the tail end and getting to be like, you see what he just did there? Like watching that and being like, I remember home run 100. I remember home run 200, stuff like that. And I know a lot of people are in the same boat too, getting to experience it with their kids now, things they experience in their teenage years or their 20s. It's a lot of fun. And you know what, for what the Cardinals did, bringing Albert back to sell tickets, hope to get a little bit of offense out of him, what they are getting out of him, it makes Albert one of the best free agent signings in all of baseball this offseason.
That's a great point. I think what Albert has done is connected generations. You and your son, hell, me and my girlfriend. My girlfriend was a casual fan, but this whole Albert thing has just kind of like, wow, I'm going to stop and pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. And, you think about how many people you can actually say. Now, you can say it about Goldie and Arenado because of the seasons that they're having. But there hasn't been a time in Albert's career that when he had a Cardinal uniform on, you didn't stop and pay attention to what he was doing. And you can name those guys on one hand over the course of time that you would stop and do. Obviously, you did it with McGwire because of the home run chase. But Albert was a hitter. He wasn't just hitting the home run. Now, granted, he's hit a whole lot of them, but he was a hitter. He came up in big situations. So when you think about the span of 22 years, there's been some people that have been connected because of him then and now.
Yeah. We and you know what? Down the stretch run, we're gonna have tickets to give you.
We might.
Claibs online.
We might.
You getting a lot of requests these days?
Oh my goodness, it's been incredible. It's been.
Nobody cares about a Tuesday night game against Colorado, right?
They do now. They do now. Like I said, people started to see. All right, it's a lefty going. It's funny because I was talking to Albert about it. He said, I asked him. I said, you kind of paying attention to the lefties? He said, I'm paying attention to the one they have Tuesday night. He said, and that's all I do is pay attention to who's going to be up and be ready to take on whoever they put out there.
We know Albert starts every time that there's a lefty up there. And you look at the rest of the way this roster is built right now. What have you heard about Juan Yepes coming back this week? Is it going to happen?
I don't know. I think Juan Yepes has got some work to do. There's some things that they don't like about his swing. And I think he'll stay there. I don't think we'll see him until September. Okay. First of all, there aren't enough at bats for him. I don't think there's enough at bats for him. And who do you move off the roster?
And that's where I was going with that. I don't know does Corey Dickerson, how's it feel this morning?
Yeah, that was an awkward situation Sunday where he was a late scratch. I'm sorry, Saturday. He was a late scratch because of the same calf issue. Then they had to put him in because they were trying to pinch hit and steal the game late. So that didn't work. So they had to put him in. And then a guy who's a Gold Glover made a mistake in the outfield that, resulted in a triple. And, the rest is history. I mean, it was one of those games, as you said at the outset, you could have won all three of those games. And I'm not blaming him solely. There were some opportunities the Cardinals had. Remember, they had the winning run at the plate in the bottom of the 10th. So obviously they were doing some things, in a position where it'd be different if they got shut down. They scored a run in that 10th inning. But the bottom line was they didn't execute. And that was a night of execution that they didn't do in multiple situations. And that's where you tip your hat to the opposition because they had their chances. So I'm not solely saying that, hey, Corey Dickerson didn't do his job. Well, there were a lot of guys who had opportunities to seal that game that they didn't. So and we go back to even Albert having a guy on the hook on a left-handed hitter, left-handed pitcher.
I mean, so Corbin Burns is a top 10, top 5 pitcher
Cy
in
Young
baseball.
Award last year.
I mean,
this isn't some guy that they just plucked out of AAA.
It's not a Bud Norris game.
But to your original point, I think when the call-ups take place, it's Yepes, it's Herrera, it's probably Liberatore. Those are the guys you're probably going to see. I know people want to see Burleson, but you don't have a 40-man roster spot to make available unless you release somebody. So I just don't know how that's going to shake out.
Before we get out of here, again, take another break. Baseball, kind of a Friday news dump almost with the news of Fernando Tatis Jr. That, from all accounts, it surprised the Padres. This had nothing to do with them going out.
Everybody. It didn't surprise everybody. I think they just had to come to grips with acknowledging what was going on. There had kind of been a whisper for about 3 or 4 days that this, because here's the thing. Once you test positive, you have a chance to appeal it. And so for people who don't know, there's 2 samples they give you, that when they test you, there's 2 samples, so A sample, B sample. A sample comes back positive, all right, we go to the B sample. That comes back positive, you have a chance to appeal, the process or the samples, but it really kind of falls on deaf ears because we've already sampled both bottles and you came back positive in both. So they probably had known about this for 2 or 3 days. I knew about it before it happened. So if I had a chance to know about it before it happened, can you imagine some other people who knew about it well before me?
Right.
But, it's one of those things that it has a huge impact on that organization because not only do you not have them for this year, you don't have them for the World WBC, you don't have them for postseason this year either. But I asked somebody about this the other day. Because initially, you're not supposed to be eligible for the following postseason, no matter whether you play games or not. But I think because of the fact that he's going to miss the WBC and this year's postseason, they may waive that. But he's not out of the clear by a long shot. And I think the other thing he's got to deal with is the damage control that comes with this. Now, one of the issues that comes into play, apparently in the DR, they had some really good chemists there. Because if you notice, most of the guys who are getting popped are coming out of the DR because they're using a lot of masking agents in order to cover what they're using. And baseball knows about it. Everybody, USADA even knows about it. World Anti-Doping Agency knows that there's a lot of things coming out of the Dominican Republic right now. And how they're really steadfast on trying to narrow this thing to where it's more controllable. And I'm not accusing him. I just know that the test said that he did something. Now, he says he had ringworms because of a scalp issue he has with the way he grows his hair. Okay, we can peel off all the layers of that, and there may be some truth to it. But here's another truth. There's a list that every player has, the Players Association has, the teams have, the list of things, and the trainers have of all the things that are banned. All you have to do is go down the list, and if there's and first of all, read the label, find out what you're ingesting in your body, read the label of what it is, and then look on the list and see if you can use it or not. Now, here's where the problem comes into play. And I go back to the masking agents that are being used to cover up some of the drugs that are being taken. Well, sometimes the masking agent combined with what you have also brings up a positive test. So there's a whole lot of things wrong with what Fernando Tatis did, not to mention the reason why he was rehabbing is because he broke his wrist riding a motorcycle. How you don't have a clause in his contract about what he can and cannot do off the field is a mystery to me. When you're making that sort of investment and you don't have hang gliding and skydiving and motorcycle riding and ATM riding and all the things that create havoc, how you don't have those clauses in the contract is a mystery to me. And shame on the San Diego Padres for allowing this to happen. There's blame to go around for everybody here.
Yeah, there is. So we won't see him till May of 2023. Now.
And here's the other thing: the damage control he's dealing with, because if you notice, the media is they're trying to pin this one on him, and they're going to run him through the coals for a little while. So this isn't going to go away quietly. I think the fact that you have a general manager in San Diego that's kind of had a little bit of a checkered past as well also is another reason why people are piling on. So the Padres, it seems like it's an annual issue that they have a lot of issues within their organization on and off the field at this time of the year. If you remember the meltdown of last year and how things started to disintegrate leading up to the confrontation we saw with Tatis and Manny Machado in the dugout. And there have been some other things that were going on with that ball club last year that were not favorable. Now you go into this season, you make a heck of a deal for an outstanding player. You mortgage a lot of your future to get him. And I can understand why you did it. Just when you think you're going to have everything in place, you have this issue that comes up, and that becomes a distraction as well.
We will we'll follow that because they're not. I mean, they're not locked in any playoff spot right now. They're 2 games up right now for that 3rd wild card spot on the Brewers. So,
and here's the other thing: throw in the fact that if Philly gets Harper back, the way they're already swinging the bat, and they have a legitimate pitching staff, they could be the ones that could slip in, and San Diego see themselves on the outside looking in. And that wouldn't be a surprise to anyone, especially when you're Machado and Juan Soto and those guys. They've been in that situation before. I just think San Diego is in a very dire situation. So, and they got a really good manager. See, they don't have a guy in Andy Green who really, or the guy from Mizzou last year, Jace. I can't think of his last name.
Tingler.
Tingler. Last year people, he was kind of outclassed. Well, this Bob Melvin's one of the best managers in the game, and so. Maybe it's the fact they just got on a Padre uniform and they might be cursed, man. That could be it also.
Hey, this is Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com. We are going to take a break, come back, and wrap things up here on today's show right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
They are St. Louis Cardinals forever, but every career must come to an end. This season, we say farewell to some of the most legendary players to ever wear the birds on the bat. After countless memories that will always be a part of St. Louis Cardinals history, we invite you to join us for another. Tickets are available to witness the storybook ending. Don't miss your chance to see these Cardinal greats for the last time at Busch Stadium. Get your tickets now at Cardinals.com.
St. Louis Acura has almost 200 pre-owned vehicles in stock with inventory arriving daily and can offer the best trade-in value. While others raise their prices and fees, we choose to earn your repeat and referral business by not taking advantage of the current market situation. We invest in our team, becoming one of St. Louis's top places to work and fastest growing companies. St. Louis Acura remains committed to becoming better than ever for you. Located at Manchester and Mason Roads.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, sponsored by the HomeLoanExpert.com, and also powered by Ameren, Illinois. And Claibs, you met the new president of Ameren, Illinois this past weekend, right?
Yes, I had a chance to meet Lenny Singh and the new president of the Ameren, Missouri as well. And looking forward to doing some things with Lenny here in the very near future once he gets settled in. But I had a really fun, delightful conversation with him. And, what Ameren on both sides of the river is able to do from a utility standpoint, it's not just about them providing power, whether it's electricity or natural gas. They are so community driven. And one of the things that we try and do on this podcast and throughout the website is promote what they're doing within the community. And you'd be amazed at how involved they are. They have some new programs that are going to be coming up that you might want to be involved in as well. So glad to have them on board as one of our sponsors, and we're looking forward to doing a lot more things with them in the very near future.
Speaking of things that we are working on, 5460, the Joe West podcast, a new episode of that out yesterday with the author George Will. You guys got into a lot of deep inside baseball talk with George, kind of sprinkled in maybe a little bit of politics, not too much there, but talked about some of his books and the way that he and Joe kind of see the game today as opposed to 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, it was a very interesting conversation because, there are certain people, and baseball is one of those sports where if that's the way it used to be when you were growing up, that's the way it should be now. And to a point, I get it. But I think that over time, we've learned that because of technology and just a general direction of being able to find other ways to see success, we find that we try and search for, I'm a middle ground guy. I try and search for the middle ground. For instance, I love the 7-inning doubleheader. I think it's great for the game. George Will doesn't like it. That's the way it's always been. Well, I get it. That's the way it's always been. But I think that most people find that the urgency of a 7-inning doubleheader, where moves are made earlier and every at bat counts compared to some gaps within the game of a 9-inning game, There's a lot more at stake, I think, in a 7 inning game, which I thought last year made those games a lot more entertaining. Obviously, they were quicker, and they all had a bearing because they're double headers. You have a chance in some cases to pick up 2 games on somebody in a day if you're facing that team. So there are a lot of things that went into it, but I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I'm looking forward to having everybody else listen to it as well. And down the road, we're going to have a visit with Rick Barry, one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA, the only man to lead the country in scoring in college, the ABA in scoring, and also the NBA. He's one of the top 50 greatest players and one of the top free throw shooters of all time with the most unique method of shooting free throws.
Yeah, we have that coming up. We already have one with Jim McMahon, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and set to record tomorrow, Claibs, with country music Hall of Famer Emmylou Harris and World Series champion Johnny Damon. Those will be 2 separate episodes. We're not having the 2 of them on together. I don't know how that conversation would go, but it could be fun.
I'm looking forward to both of them.
Yeah, I am too. Hey, the another thing to look forward to coming up in a few years. It was announced earlier today that St. Louis will be getting another PGA golf event coming up in 2026. The BMW Championship will be held at Belle Rive Country Club. So something to put on your calendars. Also, Belle Rive hosting the President's Cup in 2030. Those 2 things will be here before we know it.
Well, I don't know about 2030. I'm just trying. If I get to 2026, it'll be a good year for everybody, including me. But also, we have the Ascension Classic that's coming up next month. Man, golf is really flourishing in this area. We're getting some really good events. They're well organized, and I couldn't be happier to see how much it's improved our community. And with the Ascension, they're going to give $1 million to charities. And there are very few operations that can do that in 1 4-day week, but they're going to do it. They've given over $1 million in the last 2 years. And what Nick Ragone and his staff and everybody's involved, the great people at Norwood Hills, lending their course for this event. It is just something that if you haven't been to an event like this, you're missing out, because these guys that are playing are all guys who've been on the tour before. It's the champions. They're all 50 years and over. So you probably have seen them in competition on the PGA tour, and that's what makes it fun. And the thing I really was impressed with, they all have these great swings, and they can all still hit it. They may not hit it 400 yards, they may not hit it 300 yards, but they can find it. It's always in the middle of the fairway, and that's the one thing I came away and appreciating what they were able to do last year when they were in St. Louis.
You the little bird told me you guys won the media foursome last week.
We did.
I saw some complaints. Online that you guys won. So that's how I heard it. Not from you.
Here's the deal. Yeah. Some guys just don't get it. We were out having fun. If he wanted the gift card, he could have had mine. I mean, I don't really care. I mean, it's so sophomoric for people to be in that immature about a tournament that was really just a bunch of guys playing. And oh, by the way, Jay played really well. Randy Carricker was lights out. Matt Rocchio played well also. So, I mean, it was truly a team effort, as if I have to explain something to this asshole on why we won. But bottom line is we had a good time in the event, good fellowship, and the course is in great shape right now, and even be in better shape when the tournament rolls around.
I had no idea that Matt Rocchio golfed. That surprised me more than anything that I heard last week.
Nah, Matt was okay. He's still
you
playing.
Told me you used some of his shots, yeah.
Yeah, we had to use some of his shots, but the bottom line is, when it's a media event, you're just out there playing. I mean, you're just having fun. This isn't like there's some trophy waiting for you. Okay, I think it was a gift card to the pro shop. I'm already a member there, so I mean, it was just, it should have been about fellowship. If somebody wants to make a joke about it or complain about it, then that's their problem. I won't even say. Sorry, I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna move on. What else you got?
Sticking with the PGA, so I guess today the PGA or the BMW Championship is this weekend, and with everything going on with Live Golf right now, they are going to have. I couldn't tell you the last time I heard that there was a players only meeting for the PGA, so they are going to hold that today. Tiger Woods is even flying in to be a part of this players only meeting to kind of figure out what they need to do to stop this mass exodus of PGA players to go to the Live Tour. It's pretty crazy that this is seems to be affecting the PGA players, and they're realizing that they have to make some changes.
Well, you're right. I think it's become a bigger distraction than they thought. And I see both sides of this thing. The PGA is giving these guys an opportunity to go out and have a career. It's a great tradition. And they think that they have the best tour in the world. It's also giving younger players an opportunity to grow as well. With that said, it's amazing, as much money as the PGA brings in. And let's face it, if it wasn't for Tiger, the PGA wouldn't be where it's at today, period. Okay. He kind of put the PGA back on the map because Jack had wound his career down. Arnold had wound his career, and they were the most recognizable guys. Tiger brought a whole new brand of golf to the game, and we've seen other guys grow from it. But, when you look at the Live Tour, they're providing a guy opportunity he can't get on the PGA. Some of those guys aren't going to make $100 million. All right. And when you look at the guys like Koepka and DeChambeau who are injured and maybe on the other side of their career, they're not going to see $100 million. And for this whole thing about Saudi blood money, maybe we ought to take a look at some of the companies who support causes that maybe we don't think are all good for what we're all about either. So I think that there's enough on both sides to be supportive of and critical of. But at the end, the PGA's got a problem because they don't know what to do next and how to counter it, because Cameron Smith pulled out of the FedEx this week. Now, he said he had a hip issue. There was a rumor going around that he was going to go. I think also when they gave him that 2-stroke penalty on Sunday, that probably didn't sit well with him either. But bottom line was, think about this. I think the agents have more to do with this than anything else with regard to what's going on, because the agents get paid off of this. All right. They don't get paid from the winnings that they get on the tour. All right. They get paid on the commissions for merchandise and things of that nature. They don't share the tour winnings. But in this situation, when it's already established, it's been bargained that you're going to get $100 million for participating. Guess what? You're charging them 10, 20%, maybe. Who knows? I would say they're charging them anywhere from 8 to 15%. That's a lot of money for an agent, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And that's the one element that nobody's talking about. That those are the guys who are steering guys. Like Norman, Cameron Smith's guy, is Australian, as is Cameron Smith. And he and Norman have a relationship. So there's a lot of things in the back of the room that nobody's talking about that are some of the reasons on why some of these guys are going. But I go back to my original point about Koepka and DeChambeau and some of the other guys, because the other guys that on the tour, on the Live Tour, they're kind of irrelevant, okay? Who cares what Sergio Garcia does other than complain? There's some other guys who've had their day in the sun. This is a better way for them to be successful on this tour. So I get all that. But if the guys like Cameron Smith or the kid who won this weekend, if they start going over there, then the PGA is going to have a problem, because I don't know where the next batch of great golfers is going to come from. And they'll be poached as well. It's just like going back to the days of the AFL or the WHA or the ABA. There used to be a Mexican league that was trying to poach players like Max Lanier and some other guys. They had they had put a contract in front of Stan Musial to play, and he wouldn't do it. And the Mexican league was going to give Major League Baseball a run for its money had Stan gone. So we've always seen competitive leagues challenge the established leagues. And this is the first time we've seen it with the PGA. And they don't have a plan B yet, but I'm sure they'll work on one.
3-game series against Colorado this week. You going to Arizona this weekend?
I will be in Chicago on Sunday night, ready for the Cardinals to deal with a 5-game series against the Chicago Cubs.
That sounds like a nice weekend for you then, before you head up there for that one. Anything planned on the pregame these next 3 days?
WWE. We've got I can't think of her name. I'm interviewing her today. I have her information. I'm interviewing her today.
Who is it? Is she a champ?
Yes.
Bianca Belair?
I think that's who it is. I think
All
that's
right.
what it is. So I'm talking
You're
to
gonna
her
like
today.
her.
Did I
You'll
ever
like
tell you a
her.
story about the Bella twins?
I think you probably
remember the Bella
Yeah.
twins. So we're doing a game one day. It's a Sunday afternoon. No, it's a Saturday because they're coming on Sunday. So Mike Shannon, they have a promo package and they have a photo. And if anybody's seen the Bella twins, they're voluptuous, very attractive women. And Mike starts to read the bio, and then he looks at the picture and he says, "We're going to have the Bella twins on tomorrow. They're going to be in the game, coming by the booth." And he said, "All I can say is congratulations to their parents." Because he's looking at the pictures. I mean, they're all, and Rooney starts laughing to the point where his glasses fog up. He's crying. And so, Jim Jackson, I mean, we're all just like, and Mike kind of looks at us and realizes he made it funny. And now he starts laughing, and we probably missed 2 or 3 pitches along the way. But just the fact that he saw one thing, and I guess, he just says, and congratulations to their parents. I mean, who could come up with something like that? So hopefully.
It's a blurry picture. I just grabbed one off
it's
of
clear
there,
enough for me. It's clear enough for me. I guess I put on a clean shirt today.
Yeah, So you have fun with that tonight, Claibs. I'll be sitting there waiting for Ben to send me the pictures.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the interview. Let's just put it that way. You know who's a big wrestling fan is David Freeze. He's going to be in town as well for it.
Oh, nice.
Huge wrestling fan. So
Anyway,
what's her name again?
Bianca Belair.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm all over it.
All right. You have fun with that. That is Mike Claiborne.
I
I'm Joe
hope so.
Roderick. This has been another edition of Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by the HomeLoanExperts.com. Plenty of content still to come all week long right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
St. Louis Acura has almost 200 pre-owned vehicles in stock with inventory arriving daily and can offer the best trade-in value. While others raise their prices and fees, we choose to earn your repeat and referral business by not taking advantage of the current market situation. We invest in our team, becoming one of St. Louis's top places to work and fastest growing companies. St. Louis Acura remains committed to becoming better than ever for you. Located at Manchester and Mason Roads.